So let's go ahead and talk about this right now. This game is ugly. Wouldn't you agree? I know ugliness is subjective. One person might think something's ugly, while another person might think that the same thing is not ugly, and vice versa. But I think most people would agree, looking at this game, that it's if they're not going to call it ugly, they'll at least say that it doesn't look too good at all. But I don't really care. I'm not hung up on that too much. I am Vic Benedict. We're playing Conan, and we're playing on the hardest difficulty. And I didn't stress it really in the last video too much, but this game is very, very difficult. And the reason I brought up the ugliness is because you're going to be watching the game for 14 missions, some of which are very lengthy. So I just wanted to let you know that you're not. Look at that fucking execution, man. Jesus. You know, you're going to be watching these videos. They're going to be long videos, and it's not going to get any prettier. So that's all I can really say. And I'm going to be recording in the very best quality that I can, 1080p at 60 frames per second. Even though this game, it doesn't run at 60, regrettably. But I don't think it runs at 30 either. I think it runs a little 40, maybe? Like 35 on average. It's not that bad. You know, we can only hope and, you know, wish that it wasn't 60. I don't know. I've tried to look what the frame rate is, guys. I don't know what the frame rate of this game is. Anyway, so I haven't really purchased anything. Now, you've seen some of these parries, right? So what happens when you parry an attack is that you outright kill the enemy. So it's not just like in God of War where... now, I think a parry could kill an enemy if... You know, but it was mostly for you parry and then he'll do a riposte. It was different in each God of War, but it would just be a way to deflect an enemy's attack and deal a little bit of damage to him. But in this game, like if you parry and you get the button press correct, you know, and sometimes if you're dodging, it doesn't work. Like if you're dodging, it still might give you the prompt, but then it's not going to let you parry. It's something that rarely happens, but it still happens. But yeah, if you parry, that enemy's dead, and I really like that. I'm not used to that. But anyway, there's a little hidden area over here, and anytime that you see rocks around or crates or anything that looks like it can be interacted with, it most likely can, and it's a pretty good way of dealing damage to enemies, particularly some of the larger enemies that block a lot. And blocking is not something that's exclusive to the larger enemies, guys, because there's a lot of enemies in this game, and they mostly block. So it's going to be a challenge sometimes, and the game is going to be stressing to you when you play. Oh, look at this! They even copied the combat roll from God of War. Isn't that kind of funny? Like, even those little tiny things. Like, how do they get away with copying that? And I'm sorry, guys. I do have to blur this out. So what happens over here? I think the game calls these maidens. But from what I take from their like body, what they're saying, they're whores. Like, only a whore would say, "Take me and crush me with your love," and "Where are my fucking clothes? Where are my clothes, man?" And then they kind of do this stupid little like dance when they're standing there, and they disappear when you turn your back to them. So if I call them whores, you guys just realize like what? Look at that one. That's fucking amazing. But you're gonna have some pretty simple pirates over here, and I'm having the time of my life. The time of my life playing a pretty mediocre game, but it's fun. So there was an edit at some point during this fight in which I bought a move called, well, I don't know what it's called, but it's circle and then triangle. I believe. No, circle, square. It's a body slam. And you saw me do it a couple times. Here is a little heavy. Jumping for joy over there. What's he doing? Some kind of a weird dance. You doing a dance of joy, motherfucker? I tried to parry this guy, and I couldn't. Similar to how some of the shields in Dark Souls worked, when you had a smaller shield, and I don't know much about Dark Souls, even though I've played them quite a bit. If you had a smaller shield, now, yeah, I did parry then, but he had his armor broken off, so I don't think you can parry him when he's got his armor on. And what I don't like about that enemy is just a small grievance. When you break their body armor off, you can't grab them and throw them anywhere and damage them. They'll retaliate and damage you. I mean, if you break their body armor, I think you should be able to grab them. Okay, here's a little bit of mandatory damage over here. When these archers hit you with their arrows, it's going to give you the R1 button prompt. There's the body slam, guys. It's going to give you the R1 button prompt, and you're going to be you're going to want to press that as quickly as you can, because it does very small damage, but it adds up if you don't get the arrow out of your arm. And there's going to be another type of arrow that they shoot later in the game that explodes, and it's a more interesting type of arrow. And over here I'm going to grab the shield. Now there's a couple things about the shield. I love that execution. Okay, so for the next part of the audio commentary, I am having to come back at a later date to add some more commentary to the video, because I'm finished with the video. I just have some stuff to narrate over this video and the next one. Even though I'm not finished with the next one, guys, so you're just gonna have to wait until it's all rendered. So it takes a long time, but that's neither here nor there. So I think I was talking about, and I didn't mean to sound like a jerk right there. I'm not sure why I said it like that. The shields. You just saw me throw a shield. Yes, you can throw a shield. And so one of the obvious things about the shield is that you can block the projectiles, even though that one went right through me for some reason. I think it has something to do with the hill that we're on here. And we have an enemy kind of frozen over there. It happens sometimes. But he's dead, so it doesn't matter. One of the loading screens, though, when I was, I don't know how long I've sat in front of my computer waiting for these fucking loading screens. They're not too long, but it's just long enough to get really, really mad at the game. Anyway, here's the save stone right here, and you can manipulate those if you can ever get back to those during a fight. You can completely, I would say, abuse those, because anytime you're doing a fight, you can save it at any point, so long as you don't get interrupted in the process of putting the sword into the rock there. You'll have the ability to save it at any point, and that's pretty good. And I might be doing that actually, because some of these fights, they're kind of ridiculous what they throw at you. I'm going to try to do every single fight. There's some enemies in this game that I really don't like, but I'm going to try to still do the fights. And I'm going to try to keep the tone of this. We're also, see this guy here? This is one of the captains. We're going to fight 3 of these guys at the end of the video. So there's going to be plenty of time to talk about like how I fight this guy. Because the way I was fighting this guy was not really anything that is going to help you beat them, because I have a much better way to deal with these guys once we get to the ones with the 3. So did you see how I parried him? I'm almost certain that you can't parry those guys until their body armor is chipped away. I don't really like that, but one of the reasons that I was mentioning anything about the shields a couple minutes back, I'm sorry about that, I think I got sidetracked a second ago, but the shields, one of the loading screens said, I really did get sidetracked, didn't I? One of the loading screens said that parrying is easier with a shield, and that's pretty ambiguous to me, because parrying is easier with the shield. Does that mean that the parry window is a little bit you know, wider? How would you say that? That's less strict, more open. It could mean that, you know, in the same way that the smaller shields in Dark Souls enabled you to parry a little easier. I don't know if it was true for every Dark Souls, but that's just one example. Just for this part, though, we're going to be rescuing a few of our crewmen. Oh, well, not our crewmen, it's Akana's crewmen. And the female protagonist in this game is voiced by Claudia Black, the voice actress in one of the voice actresses in Uncharted. I think she started in Uncharted 2. She's got very good taste if she's in this game. And I'm saying that seriously because I really like this game. I'm having fun. It's fun learning it. It's fun like looking through all the combos and, you know, putting two and two together as much as I can. I'm not going to be putting too many of the menus. I don't think you'll see a single menu in this walkthrough. But I will tell you what I buy and things like that, and anything that you might want to pick up. I just don't like including the menus in there. So I don't think that if you have a shield, it's going to be easier to parry, because honestly, I've experimented with it a lot, because once I saw that message, I said, whoa, maybe I will pick up a shield, because this game is kind of imprecise about the parries anyway. Because the parries in this game, it's not like you're going to get a whole bunch of parries like in God of War, in the God of War games. And I know God of War 1 had some pretty tricky parries and ripostes to pull off. Those were pretty tricky to get, and they didn't really work too well. And the second game had the Golden Fleece, but it only had like one parry for that. I just think in the third game it was wonderful, because you had, I mean, it wasn't that wonderful. I mean, in the respect that there was only two ripostes, but still, I liked the feeling of it, and it wasn't that difficult to pull the parries off, and I think for that reason, it wasn't too much of a damaging counterattack, either of those two attacks on God of War 3. I just like the God of War 3 riposte the best in the parry system. I don't know. Maybe there is some truth into that message. Maybe it does mean that if you have a shield on, your timing doesn't have to be as precise as it normally has to be. Maybe they just meant that, you know, if you have a shield, you'll be a little bit safer and you won't get damaged. I don't know. They could mean anything, because the tool tips are so stupid. And one of the examples I can give you of how stupid they are is they'll say something like, arrows can't be, you have to like dodge or evade a projectile. Yeah, it's the same thing, man. Look at that, throwing that guy into the waterfall. Fun times. This is a fun game. Anyway, I think I have some other topics. I need to, let me see. Oh, have I even touched on the stances? I don't think I have. So there's 3 stances in this game. It's a little convoluted at first when you look in the menus, because there's all these categories of moves, and I think there's 4 columns, and one of the columns has just all the moves combined. So it's really confusing if you look in that one. So I would recommend just going through the individual columns that represent the different stances. But you can have a weapon that's a one-handed weapon, which is the one we have now. Or excuse me, I'm sorry. I think, no, we've always had this one. This is a two-handed weapon. It gives you raw power, but at a slower speed. Has really excellent guard breaking mechanics. And when I say that, I just mean spam triangle, basically. And of course, I think you've seen me dual wield. So you can go one-handed, which gives you a lot of versatility, because you can pick up shields, you can hold torches and things like that, and you can throw things. Anything you pick up, you can throw in your free hand. And so if you're going for having 2 weapons at once, 2 swords at once, there's a few occasions on some of the boss fights where having dual wielding was helpful. But when you dual wield, then I'm reading off something I wrote here, that because it's so hard to remember everything. The dual wielding gives you a lot of speed, repeated strikes, and the disadvantage and this is echoed in the loading screens. It says that the attacks are weaker. I don't know if I would say that honestly, because some of the bosses, dealing with bosses, I've dealt, like the final boss I dual wielded, and I just destroyed him with dual wielding. So I wouldn't say it necessarily gives you a weaker attack than, say, one-handing. But I think where are we? Oh, they drop. Well, they don't drop this guy off. They give you this guy to fight right before the 3 guys you'll fight at the end. So have I mentioned? Okay, so what is the parry? So what it is, if you're not familiar with this game, is that you're pressing block at the moment of impact, and the game is going to give you 3 choices. They give you circle, triangle, or square. They never give you X. And it's basically just get the button correct, and it's going to do a different attack depending on which. But actually, I don't think it's depending on what button it is. I think it's just whatever you're wielding. But okay, so for the 3 captains down here, I think, okay, do you see how the one threw that at me? That's not something that they really do that often. And these guys are pretty agile too as far as evading your attacks. But what I do with this weapon, and I would recommend having this weapon because they're block happy, as most of the enemies are in this game, which is really frustrating. So what the game wants you to do is break their guard. And all you really have to do with a weapon like this is just press the triangle button. I press it twice and then I block. But the problem about this game is that if you're getting hit once, you're usually getting hit like 10 fucking times. So it's really annoying. It's hard to break out of stuff when you're getting staggered. It might even be impossible to break out of it. But basically what we want to do here is just destroy their armor and then look for a parry opening. When their weapons flash like that, it gives you an opportunity to do what we just did right there. And I'm almost positive, because I dealt with this enemy for about 45 minutes trying to parry, and it wouldn't let me parry. I even was using a shield at one point, not on this fight, but earlier when we were fighting a solo, one of these guys. And see what I mean? Like, I was pressing block well before I knew that he was going to attack me like that, and I'm not making excuses for it. I'm just saying that I pressed... In one of those instances, I know I was pressing block, but his attacks were so fast that he just staggered me in a bunch of hits like that one just did right there. So anyway, guys, that is the conclusion of the video. Take care.